We're going to start. Good evening. Thank you for attending the first ever Hispanic Republicans of Texas virtual meet and greet. My name is Maria Garza Brown, and it is a pleasure to serve on the HRT board. Tonight, I have the honor to introduce a dedicated public servant who currently serves as the U.S. Congressman for the 23rd Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Gonzales is a distinguished veteran who achieved the Navy's highest enlisted rank, Master Chief Petty Officer. He deployed in support of combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan and provided support for regional security operations throughout Asia. As a career cryptologist, he also served in several roles at the Navy Information Operations Detachment, U.S. Central Command, Center for Information Warfare Training, Navy Information Operations Command, and Office of Legislative Affairs. Congressman Gonzales also provided essential contributions to Senator Marco Rubio's defense, foreign policy, and intelligence portfolios as a Department of Defense Legislative Fellow. While serving in Congress, Tony serves as Assistant Whip to Republican Whip Steve Scalise. He is a member of the prestigious House Appropriations Committee, focusing on military, Veterans Affairs, Transportation, and Housing and Urban Development subcommittees. His district is larger than 30 states and covers more than 800 miles of border. He is the 8th member elected to the Texas 23rd Congressional District. At home, Congressman Gonzales has made it his mission to provide guidance to at-risk youth by serving as a CASA volunteer alongside his wife, Angel. He also founded the Tony Gonzales Foundation, a nonprofit that focuses on empowering and encouraging growth and development in impoverished areas of San Antonio by uniting local businesses, schools, and families. Congressman Gonzales is a graduate of Georgetown University and has a master's in international relations from American Public University. He is also a PhD candidate in international development with an emphasis on security studies and international politics at the University of Southern Mississippi. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Tony Gonzales.
Hey, Maria, how are you doing? I'm excited about tonight.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we got some questions for you, so that will be great. Are you ready for them, or do you want to say a couple of words before we start?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's just jump right into it.
Okay, perfect. Our first question comes, and it says, when you meet the local elected officials in border communities, what are they asking you for?
Yeah, the number one thing is this border crisis has impacted everybody. Everybody is sucked up into the chaos, regardless if you're a Democrat, regardless if you're a Republican, whether you voted or not, like none of that matters. Everybody is impacted by this. And honestly, the number one thing that they're saying is they feel as if they're abandoned and they're alone. And that's just not right. And so I spent a lot of time on the border. My district's 40% of our southern border. As you can imagine, a lot of things happening. I've really worked hard to understand and talk to all parts of the border security process, from Border Patrol agents to sheriffs to local elected officials. But the number one thing is they just feel alone, and it's not right. You know, it's not right that people don't feel safe in their homes. It's not right. Everybody's impacted by this crisis. Border Patrol agents are impacted by this crisis. Everyday citizens are impacted by this crisis, and migrants are impacted by this crisis. You're seeing migrants pass away at record numbers. It's just absolutely terrible. In particular, I just visited my 29th county. I have 29 counties a couple of weeks ago. And on that visit, I was visiting with county judges in particular. I really lean on county judges to get a pulse of what is happening. And, they're asking me for more body bags because the number of migrant deaths are through the roof. So this crisis is real. It's impacted absolutely everybody. And bottom line is they just need help. And they're tired of feeling as if they're alone.
I can only imagine. So that actually, this is the next question is actually a kind of follow-up. So you're talking about how they feel alone. And I guess that they're also asking, why does VP Harris not refuse to come to the border and almost acknowledge the crisis that is happening? And why does the left seem like they don't care or don't want to solve this problem?
Yeah, and and I think this question kind of gets to the heart of what it's like to be Hispanic and what the expectations are, and specifically Mexican American. I think the expectations are you don't trust folks that you don't know, and if you come to a community, or if you don't come to a community, that tells you how much respect somebody has for you. And by her and the administration really not showing up, it's disrespectful. One of the reasons I believe I won, and I didn't win by 900 votes, we won by 12,000, we won by 4 points in a very contested district, is I showed up. And I showed up in particular in Hispanic communities where, honestly, traditional Republicans had never showed up before. They always thought, what, I'm not going to get those votes. And people aren't going to vote. If they do vote, they're not going to vote for me. And they just kind of wrote them off. And, you send something in Spanish 2 weeks before and you think like, there's my Hispanic outreach. But that wasn't my approach. My approach was my push cards were in English and Spanish from day one. And the very first place that I visited on my campaign trail was Eagle Pass. Maverick County is as blue as it gets. It's right on the border. And I showed up, and I showed up over 20 times during that last campaign. I say that to go, when the vice president doesn't show up, it's disrespectful, and people see that and they're frustrated with it. And so, but if Republicans are going to win elections, it's not enough for us to point at all the bad things that the other side is doing. We have to show up. We have to show up, and not just once, and not just for asking for votes. We have to show up over and over and over again, and then we have to deliver. So I think, the fact that this administration hasn't taken the crisis serious is disrespectful, and people are noticing that.
I totally agree, because I think this is our opportunity to show that we do care about our community, and whether you're Republican or Democrat. But as you well know, the border is like a big family. It's la familia.
Yeah,
and that's how
right.
they see it. So
that's right.
So great. The next question that was sent in was, as you travel the district, do you get the feeling that independents and Democrats realize how bad the border problem is?
Oh, yeah. Nobody can get away from the crisis. You are just consumed into it. I mean, and you see it firsthand. You see it firsthand with the high-speed chases that, once these small towns that relatively quiet, didn't have a lot of action, are now seeing high-speed chases 3 or 4 times a week. They're seeing, bailouts and migrants coming over in record numbers. And I'll also say my district in particular is very compassionate, right? Immigration is not a new topic. Many folks have come over legally or otherwise to come and live the American dream. And oftentimes the folks that are trying to come over, you see your grandparents, or, you see through their eyes, and, you want to be helpful, and you're compassionate. But what has occurred is the compassion is on a collision course with chaos, and people don't want chaos. They don't. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to them to not feel safe in their homes. And this was a couple months back. This crisis has been going on for a while. A couple months back, someone gave me a call, and they go, "Look, I'm a small business owner. I spend a lot of my time gone. My wife works at the school, so she's gone. We have two teenage children that stay at home. It was during the summer, or during the kind of the distance learning deal. They stay at home, and they live on the border in Del Rio. And you had these migrants come and bang on the door and just be kind of trying to they needed help, right? So the kids are freaking out, so they call the dad. They go, "What do I do?" The dad's like, "Call 911." But I'm in San Antonio. I'm 3 hours away. And so he's freaking out, and he calls his friends, his neighbors, and go, hey, there's something happening at my house. Is there any way you can go over there? I'm out of town at the moment. They're like, absolutely. So fast forward, when the kids called 911, the sheriff's was like, hey, look, it's going to be about 45 minutes or so before I get out there. I mean, that's an eternity when something is happening. Thankfully, the neighbors showed up within minutes. But as a father, I'm a father of 6. As a father, that you get that call, I mean, all kinds of things are going through your mind. I also want to say this, like those migrants, they weren't murderers and gang members, and, they weren't there to burn the house down. They were just migrants trying to seek a better life. I fully understand that, but it creates this chaos, and it's just dangerous to everybody. So everything ended up being okay, but like that happens every single day. I share that story to go, it's unfair to everybody involved in this. It's unfair to those kids that no longer feel safe staying at home, and they won't stay at home anymore. So as a parent, you got to earn a living. Like, how do you balance all that? It's unfortunate all the way around. I go back to it. I would love nothing more than this administration to get involved. I'd love nothing more than Congress to start leading again and have this discussion on legal immigration reform, and have an opportunity for those who do want to seek the American dream to absolutely come to our country and seek that American dream and do it through the legal process. Right now, that process is broken. And because of that, oftentimes they're forced to do nothing more than to come across the legal route. And it just puts everybody in a bad spot. And it's time for Congress to lead, reform our immigration system, as well as make sure we have a secure border. People should not be afraid in their own homes. That's what's happening.
Well, a lot of that is, like you pointed out, the broken process, which is They were not ready for this. And there's nothing there that there's no process to have and accommodate so many people coming across the border at one time.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really disappointing is they don't talk to anybody. I mean, they don't even talk to Democrats. They have this, yo mando, yo sabe, I understand it all. I'm going to rule. This mentality, they won't, I mean, it's so they won't even go and sit down and talk to Democrats. Heck, don't even talk to Republicans. Talk to Democrats. They won't even do that because they don't want to hear what they have to say. And that's a problem. And I think it's a problem, but I also think politically it is an opportunity for the Republican Party to lead if we can have a different message. It can't be this, we don't want you here, stay out, you're not welcome message. Can't be that. It's very anti-Hispanic. It has to be a different message that believes in rule of law, that believes in secure border, but also is compassionate and believes in welcoming those that want to live the American dream. But it has to be a process that we know who's coming into our country and why.
Totally agree with you. I think that's great points. Our next question is, you serve on the Influential Appropriations Committee. What is the latest on the infrastructure negotiations and how to pay for everything? Because that's certainly a big concern for everyone.
Yeah, this is my first time in public office. I served 20 years in the military. I've worked with all different types of people from all over, all walks of life to solve problems and focus on a mission. One of the most disappointing things for me is I come to Washington and it's so partisan. Everybody's just dug in. And I think, Biden really had an opportunity to lead in a different manner. He'd always pretty much been a centrist, moderate kind of senator coming up through the ranks. And that's the furthest thing from what we've seen as his presidency. He's kind of sold us a bill of goods of, hey, I want to work with you, but I really don't. I'm gonna lead. I'm gonna let the progressive wing of my party kind of take things over. And I mentioned that because what I would love to have seen is a bipartisan rescue package. When we were talking about that, instead they just shoved this relief package down our throat purely along partisan lines, trillions of dollars. And I think if it would have gone a different route, we would have a different discussion on infrastructure. Bottom line is our roads are crumbling. Our bridges are falling apart. Our ports need to be updated. No doubt, we need to do something with infrastructure. But the problem is, Democrats feel as if they have all the control and they just want to add all kinds of junk in there that have nothing to do with infrastructure. And that's dangerous. I mean, when you're throwing trillions of dollars around, I mean, inflation is going through the roof. We're feeling that. I mean, people can't even buy a home because prices have skyrocketed. So what does that mean? That means you're getting priced out of the American dream. People, they can't go on summer vacations. You've been cooped up in your house for over a year. You can't take a summer vacation because gas prices are through the roof. So I think we're seeing that. What I would love to see, and there's been a lot of push, there's been a lot of energy kind of to see a bipartisan solution to this. I think there is some opportunities, in particular, a lot of the COVID funds that haven't been spent, maybe reappropriating that for an infrastructure. But I go back to it has to be for infrastructure. It can't just be for this other agenda. And one of the things that is most dangerous that I believe in this one of the proposed infrastructure ideas is to do away with the oil and gas industry. I mean, they very much want to create a different industry, and it's built on power and money, like a lot of things in politics, and that's dangerous. They want to create this Green New Deal, and you're going to see that, I think, in the House next week. Their Green New Deal infrastructure package that is just dangerous, that has nothing to do with bridges and roads. And I'll go a step further, the broadband and cybersecurity that's critical to keeping things going. They don't want that. They want to kind of kill an oil and gas industry that, honestly, my district is over 70% Hispanic. Guess what? There's a lot of Hispanics that earn their living, blue collar, hardworking Americans that earn their living through that industry. And what are you going to do? You're going to tell some 50-year-old man, hey, sorry, I'm going to teach you how to code. And, I want you to stop what you're doing. You're going to learn how to code. And we're going to move you to California. Like, what? So it's just dangerous in general. Having said all that, I've actively been working with Democrats to try to come up with a solution to infrastructure in a bipartisan fashion.
Wonderful. Because that was one of the issues that I had too, that, okay, you want to change pretty much people's livelihoods, but at the same time, there's still, again, no solutions, right? There's nothing in place for them, no planning in their side and,
Yes.
and helping, like you say, Hispanics. I mean, my family too, they grew up as roughnecks, they used to call them, and, in the drilling business. And what are they going to do now?
Right.
So.
Exactly.
All right. So our next question is, President Biden recently said climate change is the greatest threat to national security. What do you think is our greatest security threat? And are you concerned that the military is going to be influenced by the woke ideology?
Yeah, no, I mean, the world is on fire. You're seeing all these different crises emerge, the border crisis, the economic crisis. You're seeing all these different things happen with this administration. And oh, by the way, it's been 5 months. Feels like it's been 5 years, but it's only been 5 months. And, it's not even, it's never about what it's about, right? So, climate change has nothing to do with changing the climate. It has everything to do with changing industries, right? Your industry doesn't support my belief system, so I want to do away with that industry, and I want to create another industry that does support my belief system. That's all what it's about. It's about power and control. If we were talking about climate and we had a real discussion on it, that'd be one thing. And I think there's a lot of people willing to have that discussion, but it's not about that at all. So when you start adding in, I think one of the things that was just crazy is Kamala Harris, says, this migrant crisis, is really, really fundamental, is really a climate change crisis. People aren't coming to people don't wake up in Honduras and go, my goodness, climate change has really destroyed my way of life. I need to seek refuge in America. Nobody thinks that, right? So the fact that they're trying to use that for fill in the blank, right? You mentioned national security. I go back to it. It's just plain disrespectful. And, what are some national security threats? China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. There's people in the world that hate us, that hate the way we think, we operate. And, when I've served 20 years in the military, 18 of that was at war. 5 of that in particular was in Iraq and Afghanistan. And what we've seen, or what I thought, when I came up here, I thought, I'm going to fight our nation's wolves abroad. And I have, and I will, and I'll do all that. But the real battle is right here at home. And, this anti-American belief system where everybody's racist and everything you do is just crazy. And, it's fundamentally wrong and it's fundamentally dangerous. And we have to push back against that. This woke culture is dangerous. And I'll be specific. Every hearing that I have, one, I bring up cybersecurity because I think that's so critical to a piece of it. But recently, I had the Secretary of Army, Navy, Marine Corps. I mean, not Marine Corps because they're falling under the Navy, but Air Force before me. We're kind of doing these deals, and this is what I mentioned. I go, look, you're pushing, Secretary of Army in particular. I was like, look, you're pushing Black soldiers and brown soldiers and gay soldiers and Catholic soldiers. Why can't we just talk about being soldiers? Mm-hmm. Like, why can't we just focus on fighting America's battles? Why do we have to be proud, be proud of your heritage and be proud of who you are? All about that. That's what makes America so special and so beautiful. But when you try to create these boxes and put everybody in these boxes and pit everybody against one another, it's dangerous. And like I said, I think when I came into this gig, I thought I'd be fighting the enemies abroad, but really it's the battles at home that are so key and so important to stay engaged in organizations like HRT. I mean, HRT is on the front lines, have been on the front lines for a long time. And it's not just about the federal level, it's about federal, state, local, everything. You got to get engaged. And I think that's how we win this battle is folks get engaged and don't just sit on the sidelines.
Well, you make an excellent point because I agree with you too, that they're dividing more in the groups and making it more racist than what they're claiming it is. And yes, it should be regarded as soldiers, not Black soldiers, Hispanic soldiers, whatever the case may be. I love that. That's a great point. Our next question is, your district is the heart of Rio Grande Valley. Do you think Republicans can maintain and build upon electoral success in that part of the state in 2022?
Look, overall, Hispanics and Mexican Americans in particular are conservative in our values, right? Faith, critical, family, everything. They believe in it. We believe in law and order. We believe in strong national security. Many of us have served or know somebody that served. All those things are critical for a long time. That's nothing new. But I go back to it. It's about showing up. And when we don't show up, we can't expect to win. That's one. The other thing I would say is the messenger matters. Absolutely matters. So, when I showed up to Eagle Pass that first time, there wasn't like, what is this guy doing here? It was different. I'm Catholic. I have 6 children. I'm a 20-year veteran. It's just different. You have a connection with people. I came from nothing, right? I'm a high school dropout, and now I'm a United States congressman. There was no silver spoon that got me here. And I'd argue that is so critical. The messenger matters, right? So I think if Republicans are going to be successful long-term, we got to find the right messengers, and we can't be afraid to go to places that we've never gone before. And we don't have to change a thing as far as the messaging. We don't have to try to, woo this crowd or that crowd. No, be who you are. Talk about the things that the values that you believe in. Show up and don't be afraid of that. That's what I believe people want. And I think there's an opportunity for us to be successful in that space. From, like I said, from federal standpoint, from a state standpoint, from a local standpoint, but we have to be engaged. We got to stop talking about it, and we got to start doing it, and supporting those that want to do it. One of the hardest things for me, when I jumped into this race last cycle, is everybody goes, you can't win that race. Will Hurd's special guy, and he absolutely is a special guy. And Will Hurd only won by 900 votes, and he did it by being very moderate and towing the line. And you're far more conservative, and you just can't win that race, and all these different reasons. And all those people, I snickered to myself, and I go, people have told me that my whole life. You can't do this, you can't do that. And my answer was always the same: watch me, right? Oh, you can't win, watch me. Oh, you can't land on appropriations. Tony, freshmen don't get on appropriations. Maybe if you sit here and you vote the way we tell you to vote, maybe 6 or 7 cycles, you can be like me. And my answer was always, watch me. So I say that to go, we need to be bold. We can't just let the status quo happen. And when we're bold, when you're playing to win instead of playing not to lose, that's how we win.
Well, I grew up in South Texas, so I know, and growing up, we didn't have a choice. It was all Democrats.
Yeah.
And like you said, if we had a choice, we probably would have been voting for Republicans for a very long time in South Texas, because we never did. No, and like you say, you've got to come out and you got to run, and you got to show that you've got these conservative values, and those are Republican values. And so it's okay to be a Republican. And I think that's one of the reasons, because there was conservative Democrats, which would be Republicans now.
Yeah.
And I agree. We've got to come out and vote. And I think someone like you, and I hope our listeners and our viewers right now understand that getting on the Appropriations Committee as a freshman is a really big deal. It's a big deal. And congratulations, because that's, Tony, I mean, we're very proud of you, and we were definitely going to support you in every race that you can. And we hope we continue to service in the public office there. So we're getting close to our last question, and it is Congressman Gonzales. Many politicians, and you kind of already answered this, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. Congressman Gonzales, many politicians are elected and change their platform once in office. How are you different? I know one word: honesty.
Yeah.
So yeah. Go for it. You go ahead.
Early on, I realized you just got to be who you are. You got good parts, you got bad parts, you got battle scars. Just be who you are. And if you are who you are, it makes it a whole lot easier. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. Because once you do, it's very evident. It's only a matter of time before people realize you're not really, who you want people to believe that you are. So because of that, early on, I was getting all this advice from folks. Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Will did this, so and so. And I go, look, I'm not Will. I'm not trying to be Will. I'm my own person, and I'm gonna just be who I am. And sometimes people are gonna agree with that. Sometimes they're not. But I'm never gonna shy away. I'm always gonna show up. I'm always gonna tell you why I believe in something, or why I'm doing something. And I think that's what people want. People want someone that is genuine, that is up there for the right reasons, not just for a title at the end of their name, or just it. There's a lot of people that do it for different reasons. For me, it has always been about service. I love this country. I will always serve this country to the day I die. Right? Whether that's in Congress, whether that's at PTA or my homeowners association, whatever that is, I will always serve this country. And what I would say is, folks need to get involved, and they need to help candidates that want to make a difference. They need to help people that also have that same belief system, and those that aren't afraid to lose. So I'll never change who I am. It's how I got here. It's how I'll stay here. I'll never shy away from the fight. I actually love fighting. It'll be exciting. I'm very proud of what I've done. Just within a few months, we've led on a lot of different issues, from border security, immigration, all these different topics. And I'm on the appropriations committee, so it's not as if I'm some guy just sitting there voting the way somebody tells me. I'll never do that. It's always about this country. And I got to go back to it, and I'll just end with this. America is a country where no matter where you start in life, you can do and be anything. And that is so critical and so important. And we can't allow others to change that. And now's the moment. Now's the moment where we fight for that.
You mentioned earlier about a little bit about your life history. I really would like for our viewers, our members, to hear a little bit more, because I think you have a great story. I know you said you're a high school dropout, but there's more to it than that. If you could
There's a lot more.
expand on that.
Yeah, I can. And you know what? It was really hard for me to tell my story for a long time, because one, I never shared it with anybody. It was always very private. It was very private to me. And then it took me a while to realize, as a member of Congress, or even a political figure, nothing is private anymore. And once you can realize that, the more it's not about you. It's about kind of highlighting to others your scars, because guess what? We all have scars. So for me, my father abandoned me at 2 months old. I was raised without a father. My mother remarried, very abusive environment. I spent time in a battered women's shelter there in San Antonio. I went to go live with my grandparents at 5 years old, and my grandparents essentially raised me. Small little town, Camp Wood, outside of Uvalde, 500 people in this town. We raised Spanish goats. I have 2 younger brothers, and family is everything to me. And I was missing them dearly. And I asked my grandparents if they would allow me to go live with my mother. I was 15 at the time, and they did. So I go back to live with my mother, and nothing had changed. It was that same violent, chaotic environment. And I'd always believed in making my own luck. And I always believed that I would just pave my own way. And that's what I did. I've lived on my own since I was 15 years old. Worked 2 and 3 jobs through high school, get myself through high school. I'm 15 years old, and I'm paying rent, and I'm paying electricity, and I'm paying gas, and I'm paying car payment, and I'm having insurance, doing all these different. I'm an adult at 15. It's real scary now that I'm a father, having looked back on it. But I'm a half credit away from graduating, and my grandfather, who taught me how to shave and taught me how to drive, and essentially was my father, he passes away. Down this spiral I go. I drop out of high school. I'm actually working at a glass factory, and with nothing but convicts. And I remember there was a foreman that pulled me aside, and he goes, I know why they're all here, Tony. Why the hell are you here? And I drive home that night thinking, I got to get out. I got to do something different. So I joined the military, and got my high school diploma while I was in the service. I go on, retire Master Chief and whatnot. But this is the most exciting thing about this story. My mother is helping me raise our 6 children. And I'm a United States Congressman. I mean, it just goes to show that this is the greatest country on earth, and we can't forget it. And we can't sit idle and think somebody else is going to protect that. We have to protect that. And we all have a story. We all got here some way. And I think it's so important that you don't forget that story, that you realize there's good, there's bad, there's ugly parts of it, but it's who you are. So, I'm
life didn't stop you, right? I mean, you had the opportunity, and I think that's great. And that's what a lot of young Hispanics need to learn or hear, that it's okay, that if you don't start, like you say, a silver spoon in your mouth, that should not dictate where you end up in life.
That's right.
That's wonderful.
That's right.
I mean, it's unbelievable, the stuff that you've done and gone through to get where you are now. So tell us about your kids a little bit. How old are they?
Yeah.
You have 6, right?
I have 6 kids. My oldest is 20. She is a junior at UTSA. Absolutely brilliant. She's studying computer science, majoring in computer science, and minoring in Chinese. I mean, she's just a
wow.
brilliant young lady, bright future. And my youngest, Isabella, just turned 1 last week. So we have everything in between. So I have 2 girls on each end and 4 boys in the middle. And family is absolutely everything to everything that we do. So
Wonderful. Well, I think we're pretty much at the end here, Tony. I know you have shared so much about your life and everything that you're doing in DC for us. And is there anything else that you'd like to add?
yeah, I just thank you again for the time. I appreciate your organization. Please continue to stay engaged. It's so critical at all levels, federal, state, local. Stay engaged, help the right people get over the finish line, because bottom line, you can want to do something all day long. You can have the greatest intentions, but if you can't win, you can't help. And we got to be able to win, races. We got to be able to win, these different areas, and not just be a bump on the log after we do that. Lead. And so I'm just so thankful for that. So, all right. Thanks again, Maria.
Thank you. The Hispanic Republicans of Texas is grateful to have Congressman Tony Gonzales with us this evening for this lively and informative conversation. We look forward to continued conversations supporting you in the future. It is wonderful to have an outstanding leader as yourself, Tony, and you encourage our younger generation to a career in public service. So thank you again for your service in the military and the public service as well. Thank you again for joining us. Good night.
Good night.